History is always a portal to the glory and destruction of the past, but without all the facts, wouldn't any story produce an incomplete perception? Hence, we're going to look into 10 historical figures that history books may have failed to mention as transgenders. Number 10. Chevalier Dion. Destined to have a mysterious yet inspiring life, Chevalier Dion was a French spy, soldier, and diplomat born in 1728. His career was distinguished by his involvement in the secretive operations of King Louis XV's covert spy network, the Secret du Roi. One of his most notable missions involved infiltrating the Russian court by adopting the guise of a woman, Leah de Beaumont, to serve as a maid of honor to Empress Elizabeth. This mission greatly influenced his gender transformation decision later in life. And in 1777, Dion publicly declared himself a woman. This declaration was part of a negotiated agreement with the French government, which required him to live as a woman in exchange for financial security. And he stuck to this condition, spending the rest of his life dressed as a woman and becoming a celebrated figure in both France and England. Despite living as a woman for the other half of his life, an autopsy conducted after his death in 1810 confirmed that Dion was anatomically male. This revelation did little to diminish his legacy. He had already cemented his place in history as someone who defied societal norms and expectations, leading to the birth of the term eonism to describe those with transgender or gender-fluid traits. Number 9. Albert Cashier. Born Jenny Irene Hodgers in Ireland, Cashier defied gender norms from a young age, living as a man to find work and ultimately serving in the Union Army during the Civil War. And under the name Albert Deji Cashier, he fought bravely in about 40 battles, including significant ones like the Siege of Vicksburg and the Atlanta Campaign. After the war, Cashier continued to live as a man, working various jobs such as a farmhand, janitor, and cemetery worker. He even voted in elections, something that was unheard of for women at the time. However, Cashier's true identity was eventually discovered in 1911 following a car accident. Despite initial efforts to keep this revelation quiet, news of Cashier's birth gender became public in 1913. In the final years of his life, Cashier faced significant challenges, including being forced to wear women's clothing and being institutionalized. Nonetheless, his former comrades and community members defended his legacy, ensuring he was buried with full military honors upon his death. Number 8. Michael Dillon. Initially born under the name Laura Maud in 1915, he later secured his spot in history books as Michael Dillon. How exactly? Well, by being the first transgender man to undergo phalloplasty. This was a complex procedure to medically construct a penis from pre-existing tissue. Dillon began his transition by taking testosterone pills in 1939 under the guidance of Dr. George Foss, who was initially experimenting with the hormone for other medical purposes. This also marked one of the earliest uses of testosterone for gender transition. Over the years, Dillon underwent multiple surgeries performed by Sir Harold Gillies, a renowned plastic surgeon who gained fame for his reconstructive work on soldiers during World War I. And in addition to his medical transition, Dillon made significant contributions to the understanding and acceptance of transgender identities through his writing. His book, Self, A Study in Endocrinology and Ethics, published in 1946, is considered the first book on transgender identity and transition. Dillon's influence extended beyond his own life. He assisted Roberta Cowell, who became the first known British transgender woman to undergo gender reassignment surgery. Dillon's life took a spiritual turn later on. He fled to India to escape the public scrutiny that came with his pioneering role and became a Buddhist monk until his death in 1962. Number 7. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc, also known as Jeanne d'Arc, was this amazing French crusader during the 100 Years' War who really shook things up in her time. Born into a peasant family, Joan claimed to hear the voices of saints urging her to drive the English out of France and ensure Charles VII was crowned king. She took a vow of celibacy and dressed in men's clothing, which received some extreme criticism at the time. Her cross-dressing was partially practical, intended to protect her from assault and give her authority among male soldiers. Despite her military success, She was captured, tried for heresy, and burned at the stake at 19. Up to this day, historians continue to debate her gender identity and motivations, with some viewing her as an early transgender figure due to her defiance of traditional gender roles. Number 6. Lucy Hicks Anderson. Being colored and transgender is a tough combo to survive, but Lucy Hicks Anderson, born Tobias Lawson in 1886, proved this wrong. From a young age, Lucy identified and lived as a girl with the support of her African-American parents following medical advice to raise her as a female. At age 15, she changed her name to Lucy and left home to start her new life. In the 1920s, Lucy moved to Oxnard, California, where she became a prominent socialite and successful chef known for hosting lavish parties and her culinary talents. She married twice, first to Clarence Hicks in 1920, from whom she later divorced, and then to Reuben Anderson, a soldier, in 1944. Lucy's life took a dramatic turn in 1945 when she was accused of perjury for identifying as a woman on her marriage license. This accusation arose from a medical examination during a venereal disease investigation at her brothel, revealing that she was recognized as male at birth. Even with her compelling defense, stating, "I defy any doctor in the world to prove that I am not a woman," she was convicted and sentenced to probation. Later, both Lucy and her husband were convicted of fraud for receiving military spousal benefits, leading to imprisonment and a ban from returning to Oxnard. After her release, Lucy and Reuben relocated to Los Angeles, where they lived until her death in 1954. Lucy Hicks Anderson's life and trials make her one of the earliest documented cases of an African-American transgender person. Number 5. Lily Elbe. Now, Lily Elbe's life was about finding and accepting herself. She lived in Denmark in the late 19th century and was a transgender woman who also liked women. Her life changed when she met her future wife Gerda in college. They both became artists in Paris. Lily discovered her true self when she posed in women's clothes for Gerda's paintings. She felt more comfortable and real in these clothes than she ever did in men's clothes. This made her fully accept that she was a woman. Gerda's art, showing beautiful women, became popular in Paris. The surprising thing was that all these women were actually Lily. Their story is about love, art, and above all, being true to yourself. Number 4. Sylvia Rivera. If you've read about the Stonewall riots in 1969, then you might know Sylvia Rivera. She was a key figure in this fight for transgender rights. She was right there with her close friend Marsha P. Johnson. Sylvia didn't just fight for LGBTQ+ rights, she also worked for the rights of African Americans and women. She was very passionate about social justice and spent her life trying to make the world fairer. Sylvia's strength and determination inspired many people to stand up for what they believe in, reminding anyone who comes across her story that one person can, in fact, make a big difference. Number 3. Marsha P. Johnson. For the lively Marsha P. Johnson, a major portion of her life was devoted to earning transgender rights. She fought alongside Sylvia Rivera, as mentioned before. She co-founded the important group Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, or STAR, with Sylvia Rivera. This group fought against unfair treatment and worked for the rights of people who were often ignored, especially after the Stonewall Uprising. Marsha was known for her bright personality and unbending iron will. She had a famous answer for a judge who asked about the P in her name: "Pay it no mind." Pretty bold if you ask us. This became her catchphrase, showing that she didn't let others define her. In 2012, a film called Pay It No Mind was made about Marsha's life and work. Her energy and strength continue to inspire people even today. Number 2. Valerie Arkle-Smith. Born in 1895, Valerie Arkle-Smith's life was full of ups and downs. In the 1920s, she tried to live as a man named Victor Barker. She was also linked to Italy's fascist party. Her life was filled with legal troubles like theft and fraud, and she had to use different names like John Hill and Jeffrey Norton to get by. Valerie's attempts to start over were very difficult, and her life ended in poverty and without recognition. Pretty heartbreaking, right? Her story shows how hard it can be to live true to yourself when society doesn't understand or accept you. Valerie's life, though tough, shows the courage needed to represent yourself. Number 1. Harry Allen. Harry Allen was a bold person in the early American West in 1882 who openly said he was a transgender man. This was shocking to many people at the time. Harry's bravery made him famous during the 90s, but also got him into trouble with the law for things like fighting, drinking, and even prostitution. The media at the time treated him badly and used his story to sell newspapers, which made his life even harder. Despite all the challenges, Harry stayed strong. Sadly, the constant pressure led him to take his own life at 40. Harry Allen's story shows how dangerous it can be to go against what society expects of you, especially in the 90s. So what do you guys think about this? We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Until next time, see you later.